Anyone who's watched any of these by now from the start knows just how much I actually don't enjoy the beginning bit until we get into it. I feel really awful about it. I can never get into the groove myself. So here we go. I'm Andrea. I run SaaSy. I have Kraken as a company mascot and far too many soft toys for a grown-ass woman with no children, but there we go. In this series of interviews, we talk all about digital transformation, which is a really broad term. It's very much overused, so we really narrow it down to what it means for us. For us, it means a business is using digital tools and technologies to streamline and improve its operations, create new products and services, or better meet the needs of its customers. And in plain English, that means putting in and using the right software. It's that for us. We've done who I am, who we are, what this is all about. Hayley, would you please introduce your lovely self to our audience?
Yes. Hi, everyone. I'm Hayley. I'm a UX designer based in Sheffield. Apologies if you can see my cat in the window. She might pop up and say hi at some point. So
one of my favorite bits.
Cuteness. Yeah. I'm currently freelancing. Have been working with brands such as Samsung, BT, EE, and SaaSy. So get the most important ones out of the way. So I'm happy to be doing the interview. Digital transformation is something that's key to UX. So I'm happy and excited to have this conversation today.
To be honest, UX is key to what we do. Hayley and I have been working together for up to a couple of years now, I think, and I actually have just refused point blank to do any projects where we're not doing UX from the beginning, because I know how many problems it ends up causing everyone involved if we do just jump in that way. So what is... I'm just trying to remember the normal order we do these, but I'm also remembering the notes that I put in that from the end of Al's interview. Okay, so what is one thing that everyone should know about you, Hayley, but probably doesn't yet?
I actually worked in psychiatric care for almost 10 years. I worked in the NHS mental health system, predominantly in psychiatric hospitals, but also in the community with people in their own homes as well. So very interesting, very challenging, and actually I think it gave me more positives and benefits and skills than I sort of realized until I left. And then I was like, oh, there's lots of transferable skills here, and I think particularly for UX, things such as empathy, communication, and really sort of understanding what people want without them having necessarily the skill to tell you, the technical skill to tell you in UX. I think really pulling out important bits of information within a conversation and really sort of digging down deep into what people need has been a skill that I've gained from the NHS that is really useful in UX. But obviously I left that behind and self-trained as a UX designer. So this is where I am now.
How did you end up working in UX and like retraining and kind of making that switch?
I guess for me, honestly, I was burnt out for like 5 years. So much so that my hair was falling out and I was just like not in a healthy place physically and mentally from working in such an environment for such a long time. So one day I Googled like, what are the best professions? Like, where are people happiest when they're working? And UX came up, and actually, like I said, there's a lot of transferable skills, whether it's communication, problem solving, really looking at what somebody needs and how they interact with the world. So for me, that sort of made quite a lot of sense. Creative wise, I'm very creative anyway. I do a lot of drawing, a lot of painting, a lot of photography, and I really love design. So I think for me, it just felt really natural and quite easy to be like, oh, I have all of these skills. I just need to learn the technical aspect and sort of the processes to go with it. So for me, it seemed a no-brainer. And it's been the best decision I've made in my life so far, I think.
I'm obviously biased, but I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders because there she is. She's I'm one of your biggest cheerleaders because I actually really enjoy working with you, personally and professionally, and it feels like it was a natural transition with using all of those skill sets. It just makes sense when I hear you talking about it, and then I actually see that the work that we do together. So, all right, what is your favorite app or tool and why, please?
So one I've discovered this week, actually, I think it's quite a new app, so I think it's going to only get better, but it's called Structured. It's an organizational app that plans your day, and it uses AI to do it. So I can either talk into it or type a paragraph of being like, on Thursday I need to do this at this time. It needs to probably it's going to take me probably an hour. And you can fit everything in there so I do it from when I wake up with stretching, breakfast, phone calls that I need to make, whether it's calling the handyman or anything like that. And I really love it. The only thing I'm slightly disappointed about is they don't integrate with Google products. So I use my Google Calendar, so it doesn't automatically transfer stuff, but it does transfer stuff that I've got in my Apple Calendar.
Oh, I like that. I was just sitting there going, please don't let it be an Apple only. Please don't let it be an Apple only. If it's
it is Apple only, but I think I'm hoping that they'll adjust that as they go through, because I think it's quite new. And a lot of people use Google Suite for things.
Yeah.
So
yeah, but also I still never got anyone to explain to me actually, and I still don't understand it, but I've also not Googled it myself, so worst enemy. But why there are much more Android phones on the market, but almost all the cool apps I certainly hear about come out for iPhones first.
yes,
I don't understand that, but
this is it. And I'm hoping with it being quite a new product that they integrate these things later on. I think this is the first volume of it. So, but it's fantastic. It looks really nice. The way they display the day is linear as opposed to like blocks, which I really love. And you can change the colors and make it look pretty, which is always a key requirement of mine. So yeah, Structured, really love it, really helps, because I can ramble into it and it will create my diary for me.
A lot. I mean, I wrote down when I did the notes to share with everyone that mine is my calendar. Like my life lives off my calendar. I need to know where I need to be, who I need to be speaking to. I've usually got 3 or 4 that I need to combine, sometimes manually and all that sort of stuff, but it runs my life. And actually something like this is a really natural extension of that. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Okay.
So love it. Would recommend so far.
Is now a good time before I do the next, we've done what digital transformation means for us, the work we do, what does it mean for you? Do you want me to say that bit and like prompt you, or do you want me to do the segue from Al's interview, which is better?
Do the segue from Al's, and then do you want me to share my screen and show you the examples?
You can, yeah, absolutely. So the reason I was mentioning the Al's interview, I'd taken a bit out of the end of that interview that we've just done, I think last week, with Al Patel. Al. I actually took a YouTube clip from that and put it in.
Love Al.
Publish it.
We both used to work with Al, so.
Exactly. And then it was really good when it was Al and Steve on the same team, and I'd go on to all our stand-ups going, oh, Steve, and everyone would be like, nope, still not watch the video, nothing.
It's a preface to whenever you see Al in any context. Be like, watch this video first and then I'll speak.
Yeah, exactly. At the end of the interview that Al and I did, he was talking all about UX, which made me really happy because it felt like a really natural segue into this conversation. So I've taken a couple of notes to remind myself really succinctly what he was talking about. Al had said, Google isn't successful because of the way it looks. It's successful because they give you the best results, or they used to before they shanked everything with all the advertising, is what he
Classic Al.
It's successful because they've got an nifty app. It's because there's always a car outside your door that's ready to pick you up. Now, I really like the fact that he's used such recognizable brands. For me, my brain can immediately picture what he's talking about. And then he goes on to say the user experience part, when people think about things, there's a difference between the user interface, which is part of what Hayley's specialism is, UX, UI, user experience, user interface, which is how things look and how people interact with your app and your product. for Uber, the user experience is, I want to get you from A to B. And he's right, like those brands do it really, really well. I loved the examples that he used, and I thought it was perfect. Then kind of like, let's go into talking a lot more about it with Hayley. So what does that mean for your world and what we do in digital transformation?
Yeah, well, I think Al's absolutely right. I think people assume that UX is making things look pretty and making people want to engage with them, but actually that's just the sort of the cherry on top of what we do. Like the real, I guess, purpose of UX is to look at the what, why, who, and when. So really, like, who's going to be using this? When are they going to be using it? What do they want to achieve from using it? And why? So I think really looking at those and bedding down is why companies like Google and Uber are so successful, because they meet those needs without us really having to think about it as users. And they've really sort of understood what the need of their product is from a user's perspective, not from a business perspective, whereas a lot of businesses are like, this is what we want to achieve, but they don't really look at it from a user perspective. And that's what the sort of UX is. Like, I'm not looking at it from my point of view as a user experience designer or from the business. I'm looking at it from how I use it as a customer or I use it as a client. And I think really understanding that and getting to grips with that will really dictate whether it's a successful product or not. I think ultimately you want people to use it, and you can have the best product in the world, the most flashy, beautiful app, but if it's not meeting a need and people aren't using it, then it's a waste of money and time on everyone's part.
Exactly. It can be,
and I think that's what Google and Uber do so well.
It can be really powerful, but if it's not what people need or want, then it will never get used, which means it's a failed product, actually.
This is it. And so many products fail because it's hard to find what we want to achieve when we go on their website. We've all been on websites where a recent one I had was I've got a new bank card, and my phone automatically saves all of my bank information on there. And it was on the Amazon actually, and I was trying to register a new card, and it didn't autofill the stuff saved on my phone from the new card, and I just stopped. That was a point for me where I was like, oh, I haven't got time for this right now. My card's not with me, I'll do it later. And I never did do it, and I never did buy the product. So I think that it's in itself speaks volumes, like integrating, really understanding what people want and making it easy for them. I think UX really has to lead people down a path to the end goal without them realizing it.
I think this is related. Tell me if it's not, though. We won't talk about it at length, but it's even down to how few clicks people want to make now before they get the information they need. So Google has not only all that work with the sort of the predictive, what does it think that you're going to ask it as you're typing things out to help you to prompt what you might be asking. It then automatically brings you all the results back, but then it's now got like alternatives that you can then click to expand to, because they realized people don't want to have to click into each one, which sounds such a different thing, but and if you understand that, then actually it really improves how the person interacts with whatever it is that you've built.
Yeah, people ultimately are lazy, and I think companies have to remember that. Like, if you want somebody to buy something, you need to make it literally as simple and as easy as possible for them to do that. Like, literally just be like, you want it here, just click one button and you've got it. Like, as close to that process as we can get. Sorry, I just need a drink, but you're gonna have to edit this out, Naomi, because this is a huge bottle and I forgot to get a glass, so
we're gonna have that as like the preview.
I have it in this, so I make sure that I drink one a day at least, so then I know how much water I'm drinking. Anyway, so I guess onto that, I've got a slide if you want to see about what UX is and because I think a lot of people, like I said, assume that it's just making things look pretty.
I think the reason for that, a lot of it is down to UX UI designer and they hear the design bit of it and a couple of acronyms, and design is normally all about how things look good.
Yeah.
That's not the same as a product designer isn't about making a product look good. It's about making it, actually, it's a lot more than that, right? It's about making
it, you know,
successful and all of that sort of stuff. But I think it's the fact that a lot of people hear the design bit of it.
Yeah.
It's refreshing that perception, I think, or the assumption. If they've never come across it before, what's the acronyms mean to them? Not a lot.
This is it. And I think because they're so interchangeable, UX, UI, and ultimately they are the same process, but focusing on different aspects of the product, I think all UX designers can do UI. Obviously, people specialize in things and can, you know, we've got user researchers, user interface designers. And I think having those specialisms is great because as a user experience designer, I oversee the whole process and I don't specialize in any one thing. And I think having those people that have those skills to be like, this is a really good, but we can make it better. We could have a higher conversion rate by adding this color or this hierarchy and things like that. And I think that really helps.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it gets a bit confusing, that there's these sort of terms battered around that people aren't necessarily aware that they all fall under one umbrella, basically.
And actually, sort of projects that we tend to work on, it makes sense to have someone like you, which covers everything that is needed in your specialism. At the sort of project, the size that we were working at public sector organization, they had multiple user researchers just focusing on that one aspect for this huge project or program of work that took 2 years. Like, it makes sense at that scope, that scale, for it to be much more niched down.
That's it. I think in big companies where they have the luxury of a huge budget for design and they're really putting a lot of money into products, like Google and Uber will have a team of 20 UX researchers just focusing on research, and then they'll have the same with the UI. And I think obviously you see the benefit of that, and it's the investment within design teams and product teams. So Harvard Business actually did a recent study where businesses that invested in UX design had a 228% better return on investment, which is huge. I was like, is that figure right? I need to read that again.
Wow.
But it just shows like the investment within the process from the start really does benefit the outcome in the end and makes money, basically. Yeah. And it's nice to have those figures because we've been saying it for ages as UX designers, and I think it's nice for
evidencing it is so huge, right? Here's
like doing a big study on it is like, oh, okay, so we are having the impact that we say we're having. We're not just blowing our own trumpet.
Exactly. Do you want to share your slides and talk us through them without me?
Yeah, so I've got some examples here. I actually shared this on LinkedIn, so a few people might have seen this, but it caused a lot of discussion about cups, mainly being the Sports Direct mug. And how much it holds. Why does it hold so much liquid? Anyway, so this is just a really lovely slide that happened on the internet, just to sort of explain it in a day-to-day basis, because UX just isn't digital, it is physical. So it's anything you experience when you're engaging with a product, a brand. It could be in a shop. The post office is a huge example of bad user experience.
Yep.
So it is in our day-to-day lives, and we generally don't notice good design. It's that we only notice bad design. So I've definitely drank out of one of these cups, the white cups, cup A, in hotels, and being extremely frustrated by how small they are, how awkward the handle is to hold, and just how naff they are generally. And I actually do drink out of a cup like cup B.
Oh, nice.
I don't, not being biased, but you know, it has a bit more sort of it's nice to see how much I've got left in the cup. It insulates it, and you know, I think this just really demonstrates UX within a day-to-day basis. I want you all to check what you're drinking from at the moment. And
Villa Crochet.
Beautiful cup.
But it's all tactile.
And it does have to look nice. Do you know what I mean? I think UX is sort of like usability, usefulness, and desirability. I think people want something that looks nice, and I think That's where we get a lot of our stick from, and a lot of our, oh, they just make things look pretty vibe. But we do, and it's important. People want nice things. So moving on to I'm going to show you some examples of poor user experience design in my point of view. You might not all agree with this, but I think it's quite controversial. But eBay, terrible website that frustrates me every time I'm using it. So you can see I was looking for kneeling chairs because I have terrible posture and I sit on a bench all day, so I'm like this, hunched over my computer, turning into a goblin. So I was like, I'm going to treat myself to a kneeling chair. So this is what I was looking for. As you can see, everything looks the same on the page. There's no real hierarchy. All of the font is mostly the same size. There's a few bold bits, but not really. It's confusing to look at. I don't know, Andrea, if you want to tell me what you feel when you're looking at this.
It's quite overwhelming. I mean, everyone, I think by now is fairly familiar with eBay, so we probably navigate without thinking about it. But if you were to come to a website like this from scratch without knowing what to do, you don't really know where to click. There's too many options. It's information overload. The nav is all over the place. It's a lot.
I think that's a really good point you made about product knowledge and product reliability. So people have known eBay for a long time, so they sort of bank on people being familiar with it, and that really shows. And I think, like you say, if I came to it as a new user, I'd be like, what is this? How do I find what it is? And I also think the brand trust and reliability, for me, I'm always conscious on eBay, am I getting scammed? Is it some company in China that are using stock images and they're going to send me a flaky little, we've all seen the dress reviews where people order dresses on eBay and then they get them and it's like they're too small, they're not nothing like the picture. It's like the Wish version of what you ordered. I think that's like it gives me that vibe, like I'm not quite trusting it. And I think that's really important, because if this was a new brand that we didn't know, so if we take the eBay thing off it, we would be like, what is this website? Why is it from 1999? What is going on? And I think that's really important. So if we click over onto a product page again, we have to open the product and we have to click on the pictures individually to view them. There's really confusing. There's so much text and there's so many things they're trying to tell me that I'm not really sure what to look at first. I'm not sure why there's multi-buy options, and the call to action buttons, they may be different colors but they're very similar, so I'm not really sure which one to press. And I think having these examples of like such big companies that do it, and I think eBay only gets away with it because they are such a huge name. I think if this was any other platform trying to sell stuff, I don't think they'd see the light of day, to be honest.
I don't think it would take off because it would be so many barriers to people kind of understanding what's going on. Everything now is stripped back. It's a lot more intuitive. It's a lot more, not so much let's hold your hand, but you don't have to work so hard to understand what's going on or what you need to do.
This is it. And it's really working hard. And I think there's a trend in UX design at the moment to make things minimal. And this is making things too minimal that I don't know what I'm doing. And I think there's a bridge in that. So the next example that I'm going to show you has, in my opinion, probably the best UX design of any app I've seen, any website that I use. And it's Airbnb. I mean, the difference, they're both selling products, and I think we need to look at, they're both selling products. So what products, they're selling obviously slightly different products, but they're selling products. And if eBay took a structure like this, it might be more beneficial to them if they were a new business. Obviously they're eBay, so they can pretty much do what they want. But some of the sort of good UX design about this is that we can click through pictures without having to open the file and look deeper into the product. So it gives us an ability to scan and either, what's it called, like or move on to another product instantly. It's like it's scanning but on a slightly deeper level, and people love to scan. So just scanning, looking at the pictures, because ultimately I think what sells a product is its images, and I want to look at it and then read information further. Also, there
it's what we were saying earlier, it's minimal clicks, so you don't have to keep clicking into it, clicking back.
I don't want to click into it and open another window and have to press back. I want to just quickly glance through, is this something that I might be interested in? Yes, I'll add it to my save list, or I'll open it and have a look at the detail in a finer sort of way. Also in this, which is very good, is the search optimization. So looking at the icons at the top, fantastic. Like, I could look at this website in a different language and know exactly what was happening.
Yeah,
you know, and I think that's the key to really good design. You have to, like, accessibility for me is something that I'm so passionate about. Being dyslexic, I find it incredibly difficult to navigate some sites just because they require you to read and understand and follow instruction, whereas Airbnb, you could use it in any language. There could be no text on this really, apart from the top bar, and I would know what was going on. And I think that's so important for accessibility. You know, we live in a world where some people still can't read. A lot of people actually can't read. And I think having that accessibility, whether you're neurodivergent or you're hard of sight, I think it's really, really super important. You know, color blindness is another thing. This is perfect for that. And I think people really underestimate their users and who they're selling to. You know, everybody wants to go on holiday. Just because you can't read well doesn't mean you shouldn't be able to do it. And I think it fits it perfectly. So I'm just going to click into a product. So we like the look of this, we're in it. And it has everything that I need to know above the fold. The reviews are there, which are really important because they build trust. There's more images. I can see a picture of Henrietta. She looks a lovely lady. I trust her instantly. She's got a little badge to say she's trustworthy and she knows what she's doing. It has the dates that I've checked in, and it has the option to look through more pictures. So I just think they've really thought of everything here. Above the line, click on it. What do I want to see? All of the information that you need is there. Well presented. There's the hierarchy, so the heading is bigger than the stuff underneath, and the same with the sort of entire holiday cottage hosted by Henrietta. It has a little widget with the price, points, the check-ins, the guests. It's just a wonderful piece of work. But can you see the difference between this product page and the eBay product page? It's just, I know what it wants me to do. It wants me to look at the pictures, review the information, and then click book.
Yeah, it's worlds apart.
This is it. And they're both successful businesses, but I think if these were both unbranded startups, I know which one would be more successful than the other. And they've really thought about the user, like, just so well. And I think that's what businesses miss a lot of the time. Yes, it looks nice and it's polished and it's beautiful, and it's also minimalist. So I wanted to have to compare two sort of minimal sites, and there's a way to do it that really encourages people to use it in a way that sort of makes it difficult for people to use it. And I just wanted to sort of share those with you all. Yeah. My point of view. You may not agree, but that's life. I'm here. So I'll stop sharing. Hang on. There we go.
I wish I could remember without Googling it, which I'm not going to do right now, how old eBay is, because it
was one of the first big internet things, wasn't it? So I'm sure it was like 90s.
Probably. I think it's the difference between what users want now versus what users wanted when eBay was first started. And Airbnb obviously has got a bit of an advantage that it's newer, so it's got fresher information. I imagine it's not as easy as, you know, saying, do you know what, every 5 years we're going to rebuild or redesign something from scratch, because there is a lot of the familiarity, right? You don't want to alienate an entire huge audience if you're doing something from scratch, and every time, you know, every 5 years you come to the product and they're like, well, I don't know where to click now.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, definitely. I think although yeah, as designers and product builders, we're sort of taught to design for the future of the internet. So there's still, I don't know, 1 billion users every year starting to use the internet for the first time. And I think, although we don't want to discourage the older population, I think, well, a prime example is my mum. I'm just going to give you a little example. She was like, I can't use a computer. I don't know how to use a mobile phone. So until recently, she hadn't had any access to the internet independently. She had to get my dad to look for things on the internet for her on his laptop. But we got her an iPad and a mobile phone, an iPhone, and the woman can book hotels independently, like, and I think it's having that accessibility that she was like, I don't know how to use it, because she was used to the first gen internet of like the old eBay, and she was like, no, it's just too complicated, like right clicking on things, and she was like, I can't do it. But now I was like, Mum, your granddaughter who's 3 can use an iPad, you can use an iPad, and she's away, she loves it. And I think, again, that sort of user experience of really incorporating everybody's need, and it's a good product if your 3-year-old granddaughter can use it and your mum in her 60s. So I think, you know, the internet's come a long way with UX design.
Yeah, hugely so. Remember MySpace? We won't touch MySpace, is it? But yeah, that's what I
saved in its own little time capsule.
Before Zoom has an absolute meltdown at us and cuts us off mid-sentence, what's your favourite hack or pro tip that you'd wish you'd known 3 years ago? This is one of my favourites to ask.
Oh, I think it's not really pro tip, but I guess something that I've learned to hack that I didn't know about 3 years ago was AI. And particularly ChatGPT. I know ChatGPT, I think everyone knows about it, everyone's got an opinion on it, but for me personally, I think being dyslexic, it's leveled the playing field for me, and it's really opened up a way to communicate in writing to people that are sort of neurotypical. I think before I felt like I knew what I wanted to say and I had the information, I didn't know how to structure it, make it concise, give context, and make it clear. So I think for me, being able to waffle into it and it create my ideas and my inputs, but in a neat package that people can understand, that has been a game changer for me. Whether it's like applying for jobs or writing an email that I'm like, oh, how do I structure this? These are the points I want to cover, you know. And it just, there's always the sort of feeling when you're dyslexic of looking stupid and feeling like, oh, people are going to know. People are going to take the mick out of me for not spelling this correctly or structuring the sentence weirdly. And for me, it's taken that pressure off and really helped me communicate with clients, with just customers, users, people in general, that I'm like, oh, okay, this is a game changer for me. So I think that if I knew that was coming, I'd be a lot more excited about being professional and sending emails and talking to people online. So yeah.
Oh, I like that. Thank you for ending on that note. Now, the only issue is that when Al sees this, he's going to have a bit of a bone to pick, because I specifically told him he wasn't allowed to use ChatGPT or AI in his answer for this, but there we are. Sorry, Al.
From an accessibility point of view, a personal point of view.
Thank you so much for chatting, and yeah, we'll see you very soon.
Yes, thank you.